enough. When I was freshly out of college, I could have packed all my earthly belongings in the back of a compact car. Now, I didn't have a car at the time, but I could have packed them in if I had a car. About a year into working, I was working at a Mennonite camp in Pennsylvania, just outside Harrisburg. My folks were going to fly down to visit from Michigan, and they called up a couple weeks ahead of time and said, you know, Dave, you really ought to get a car so you can pick us up from the airport. But then for the next few years, I was able to limit my possessions so they would fit in the back of that car. When was the last time you could put all your earthly belongings in the back of a car? It didn't take long for me to accumulate a lot more. It seemed that with every move I would try to get rid of some things, and then a few years down the line I'd have more than I had when I first moved in. It got to the point where it always seemed like I never had enough. Back when I could fit in a car, I was content. But now if you ask me what it was that I would dearly love in order to feel content, I could give you a whole long list. I'd like a brand new stainless steel gas grill. I'd like a new queen-size mattress for my bed. I'd like, I've been thinking about this one for a number of years, one of those 11 by 14-inch digital picture frames. You take your thumb drive, your USB thumb drive, stick it in, and you can watch your family pictures change digitally on the screen. Now that would make me content. Or would it? I'm sure we all have a list of if only I had. A list of just one mores. What's on your list? Is it you were out for lunch on Wednesday and if you could just go out to lunch today, you'd feel a little more satisfied? Just one more round of golf. Just one more bridge game. But then some people who are retired, I imagine, ask the question, will I have enough? Will I have enough to last me until I die? So there's always this question, do I have enough? Or I never do have enough. It was to this kind of thought that the prophet Haggai spoke to the people of Israel. The people had come back from exile, had been in Jerusalem for many years, and they were pouring their money into building lavish houses. But the temple of God remained in ruins. And God speaks to Haggai. And he says, go speak to the people. And here is what is said. Thus says the Lord of hosts, these people say the time has not yet come to rebuild the Lord's house. And the word of the Lord came by the prophet Haggai, saying, is it time for you yourselves to live in your paneled houses, while this house lies in ruins? Now therefore, thus says the Lord of hosts, consider how you have fared. You have sown much and harvested little. You eat, but you never have enough. You drink, but you never have your fill. You clothe yourselves, but no one is warm. And you that earn wages to put them into a bag with holes. Can you relate to that? It seems like the more we make, the more we stuff into our pockets, the more we need. He says it's like putting money into bags that have holes or pockets with holes. It doesn't matter how much you make, you're always going to want more. And God says, here's a spiritual principle. He says, so long as you are not generous with people in need, you will always be wanting more. You follow that? He actually says, I have held back the produce from the land because you have not been generous with things that matter to me. I've actually held back from you. Could it be that God does the same with us? But the whole question is, how can I give more? I maxed out. It never seems like there is enough. So let's take a moment and let's look at the average American's budget. The average American spends 38% of their income on housing, utilities. The panel houses that Haggai talked about. We spend 19% on transportation, on our cars, on $3 a gallon gas that just came down to $2.40 a gallon. We spend 16% of our incomes on health, prescriptions, NICRO. I think this figure also includes insurance like disability insurance. 15% of our income is spent on food. 1% of that is on alcohol. 6% is spent on going out for dinner. 9% of our income is spent on miscellaneous things, clothes, entertainment, satellite TV, satellite radio, vacations. And then we're left with this little corner to give to charity. Statistics show that Americans give between 2 and 3% of their incomes to charity. Some statistics say some Christians give as much as 4.5%. But that's how much we have left. It just seems like there's never enough. So this is how much we give for the 2/3 of the world who don't know Christ. This is how much we give to house the 1 billion people in this world who are homeless. To provide clean water for the 4 billion people who do not have clean water. Or rather, 1.2 billion who do not have clean water. The 4 billion who the World Health Organization says are malnourished. And so we see someone in need. And we say, here, let me be generous. Here you go. That should make you feel better, Judy. And the people out there who are in need, the 4 billion, who are malnourished, the 1 billion who are homeless, it's like, well, let me tell you, this last week, or 2 weeks ago, we rented the movie Oliver Twist. And you remember what Oliver says when he comes up to Mr. Bumble with that watered-down bowl of porridge? Who remembers what he says? Please, sir, may I have some more? These people in such need come to us and they say, please, can I have some more? And we look at our budgets and we see that we're overextended already. Many of us already spending more than we have in order to get the things that we don't need. And I can't help but wonder if sometimes we feel like Mr. Bumble, who responds, you want what? Look what I've given you. How could you ask for more? How much is enough? To keep? To give? We all want some figure, to know that we're doing just the right thing. Do we look to our neighbors and say, well, they give 3%, so I'll give 3%? Do we give 10% of our net, of our gross? Or do we listen to John the Baptist? God forbid. Listen to this again. From Luke chapter 3. The crowds asked him, "What shall we do?" In reply, he said to them, "Whoever has 2 coats must share with anyone who has none, and whoever has food must do likewise." How much is enough? It's a challenge for us all. How is it that we can perhaps make this little corner? How can we expand it? God, how much really is enough? I can't help but wonder, though, if maybe we're asking the wrong question. When we ask, how much must I give, are we missing the point? Perhaps we should be asking, how much do I need? Do I really need to spend 38% of my income on housing and utilities? Do I really need to be air conditioning a 4-bedroom house when I live in 1 bedroom? Do I need to replace my car every 2 years? Or however often you do it. Could I maybe consolidate my trips to the store? We move on to food. How could we, if we really wanted to increase our giving and live on less, what if we went out to dinner half as often as we do? Statistics say that Americans spend 6% of their budgets going out to eat. That's twice as much as we give to charity, to those people who are homeless, those people who are malnourished. If we cut back on the number of times we went out to dinner by half, we could double how much we give to those in need. Miscellaneous, 9%. Recreation, clothes. How much golf is enough? Just one more. Just one more round. I wasn't able to find statistics on how much of our income we spend on golf. But I would imagine if we cut back a little, that 3% would grow significantly. How much is enough? Inside your bulletins today, there is a $100 bill. Don't try to go cashless. I put it there so that you can take this home with you. As a reminder to ask yourself, how can I live simply so that others can simply live? I'd like to end with a story. A story about a young Chippewa Indian girl who lived in the city for many years. And she decided that it was time to go home to the reservation in northern Canada, to a place where life is much simpler. She gave her 3 weeks' notice from work, collected her last paycheck, and began packing She took her pictures off the wall, rolled up her carpets, packed her china, stacked her books, and pretty soon the boxes were reaching up nearly to the ceiling in her living room. She became so exhausted that she fell asleep. And she began to dream, and in her dream she was at the bank of the Red River. Pretty soon she saw her brother paddling the canoe down. When he saw her with her piles of boxes on the bank, he looked a little puzzled but didn't say anything. He stepped out of the canoe and took box after box until the canoe was nearly filled. And then she looked at him and said, "Well, why didn't you bring a bigger canoe?" To which he replied, "This is the largest canoe in the whole reservation." And I thought it would be enough because grandmother said this would do. The thought of her grandmother, the girl fell silent. Because she remembered the last words that her grandmother had spoken to her before she left for the big city. When you move, if you have more to fill a canoe, then you will know that you have become greedy. That you have taken more for yourself and have left others without. The girl woke up with tears in her eyes, realizing that she would need to give away what she did not need, so that she could return to the reservation with all the belongings she could fit in one canoe.